Gang, it's Atlantis here with our Civil War distance learning. Here we go, American Civil War. Today we're diving into a supremely important topic, and that is the epic turning point of the Battle of Gettysburg. Before that, a couple reminders. Remember that we've been talking about, look at this amazing GIF I made. Boom! Look at that slavery. Here it is again. Ready? Boom. There it goes, dividing it. Our country's been divided by slavery. That's a separate argument that I've made for you. You can check out all those lessons as well. Based on the work of Charles Dew, Apostles of Disunion. Slavery's divided our country, north and south. The south is left, and now we're in this war to fight. Lincoln is fighting the war to reunify, to try and put this log back together. Today we come to the epic turning point in our war, and that is the super famous, all famous, probably the most famous battle of the war, and that is the Battle of Gettysburg. The question we're asking today is sadly not one that some of you nerds might want. We're not asking how many people died, although I'll answer that. Was it the closest the South ever got to victory? I'll answer that. But remember that when we talk about the war, we're asking the causation questions, right? What can we learn from the war? This is not a drudgery in battle details, although it's not that it doesn't matter or that the lives don't matter. But our focus is what does the war do to America, do to society, do to the people who lived it, experienced it, people at home, and also how did different battles lead to the progression of the war. And so the question today is, how did the Battle of Gettysburg become a turning point? A turning point is right when things are going on a certain way, and then there's an event that occurs, and it shifts the way things are going to go after. And we're going to see that after Gettysburg, Lee's going to lose. Spoiler alert. The South will never again invade the North. It will fight a defensive war from then on out. It is not to say that it was easy from then on out. In fact, the war's worst, bloodiest parts become worse after Gettysburg, right? And that's going to make sense because now we realize what has to happen to end the war. Lincoln's going to later find the general that's going to do that, Grant, and the war's going to get really, really bad. This isn't it's all downhill from here. This is after this, the war shifts to fully Union offensive in the South. No defense because the South is not going to invade. And we're going to sort of begin to see the South fight defensive war and try and outlast the North and pressure Lincoln to surrendering or to a treaty, which he refused to do. Gettysburg is super well known in terms of its battle. This is a picture of the reenactment every year, or used to be every year. Now they're going to do it every couple of years because of money. The reenactors from all over the country come out and they redo the battles. They don't do all the battles. They redo some of the famous parts, some of the famous ones. They camp. They have it's like a huge tourist attraction. They sell stuff. There's food. There's music and games. It's incredible. In fact, Gettysburg is so famous that some people even write books about them for kids like you. This incredible author named Matt Landis. Man, I heard this book was amazing. In fact, so famous it went to paperback. It won tons of awards. That's just what I heard. People love Gettysburg, right? So the question is, why do they love it? We're going to look at today, not so much the nitty gritty of it. I'm going to walk you through some of that, but more about what does it tell us about the war. Here's a map. I'm going to do a little battle map of you. Here's General Lee down here outside, right, of Maryland. He's kind of, keeping an eye on the North. Here's a picture of Lee. This is the most battle detail you're going to get from me, okay? Here's the plan of Lee. He wants to give the Northern people the taste of what the Southerners have been experiencing, and that is invasion of their homelands, right? Scarcity of food, fear of the enemy. Okay, so here's the plan. Invade Pennsylvania, go into Harrisburg. Remember, we tried this once already at Antietam. Harrisburg, okay, then we're going to march to Philly, hopefully after victory. Then we're going to march to Baltimore, surround the capital. This is all an effort to force the North to feel what the South is feeling and pressure Lincoln to surrender. Remember, the war is not popular. The war is incredibly unpopular, okay? And so this is the plan. Now, we know that he never makes it past Gettysburg. Very famous image here from the photographer Timothy O'Sullivan. Here we have, it's called Harvest of Death. You can see here the Pennsylvania fields here at Gettysburg, bodies strewn everywhere. The magnitude of death here is something I'll touch on, but it is important that you understand the photography element, which we'll study later, is a huge impact on the people at home. So again, some quick things about the battle. 2 days of fighting. Again, you hate me because I'm rushing through this. I am. I'm not going to march through the parts of the Battle of Gettysburg. They matter. Many people have written books about them. The battlefield is still toured by United States military personnel as lessons. The point is that we're looking at the turning point. So after 2 days of fighting, Lee orders a frontal assault on the Union lines. Many historians argue it was the worst thing he ever ordered. Okay, a frontal assault, that's a big deal across a huge terrain of open field of artillery fire. Okay, shockingly, they almost actually break through at the center lines, but they don't. It ends in brutal hand-to-hand combat. This is often known as the Highwater Mark of the Confederacy. That's for my nerds out there. In other words, the most northern point at which the Confederacy ever reached. Okay, the point is that it failed. Okay, it failed. And so what happens is that Lee is forced to retreat south, and from here on out, the Confederacy will fight only a defensive war. That is a very, very quick assessment of the war. Remember, my point is not to belittle the events, Little Round Top and Chamberlain and all these cool things, but to show you that the outcome of this is a bigger deal, right? And the event than I think for our study of why the battle matters in terms of the turning point. A primary source of someone who was there, some Union private who endured the shelling prior to the famous Pickett's charge on that third day. Here's what he says: "Holes like graves were gouged in the earth by exploding shells." Holes like graves, yikes. "If a constellation of meteoric worlds had exploded about our heads, it would have scarcely been more terrible than this iron rain of death fiercely hurled upon us. Over all these sounds were heard shrieks and groans of the wounded and dying." I think that gives us a front row seat into the horror of this. Remember that we're always learning two things about this. We're not only learning the turning point, but every battle we're learning the horrors of battle, that the bloodshed, because of the weaponry and technology and the old tactics, are always creating this terrible, terrible casualties. I promise I would touch on the death toll. Here it is. Your total estimate casualties. This is from Civil War Trust, probably the best comprehensive site that pulls together details and articles and historians and facts. 51,000 total casualties. That's killed, wounded, missing. Okay, that is an extremely horrifying number. Okay, why is that? Remember, we're always learning. New weapons, old tactics lead to epic carnage. I wanted to point out this really incredible fact too. I found another really cool site from Teachers First about Gettysburg called Gettysburg by Numbers. Points this out. If you look at the casualty rate of the men at Gettysburg and you extrapolate that to the modern times, what would that be like? Here's what it'd be like. Look at that: 450,000 people at one battle, killed, wounded, missing. If that were to occur today, that would be an extreme horror. So you got to put it in perspective. This was a terrible, terrible battle, which always fulfills what we're always learning and remembering. The Civil War battles were so bad and bloody because old tactics, new weapons. Okay. So where does that leave us? Gettysburg is a turning point because after the battle, which was horrible, Lee never again invades the North and fights a defensive war in an attempt to wear out the Union and force Lincoln by pressure of the people to give up, which almost happened. Very unpopular war. Lincoln instead wins re-election. The war goes on. Victories help him. We'll see later on. But this is why this battle matters. Okay. Next time we'll talk about the second turning point, which helped this effort, and that is the victory at Vicksburg. See you later.